Hello everybody, thank you for joining me. My name is Jessica and I'm actually here to talk about possible reasons that fish are dying off in our oceans, waters, lakes. I chose to focus on the Great Lakes, being that I'm from Michigan and I'm kind of surrounded by the Great Lakes. So looking into it, the first thing that popped up was blue-green algae. Now, algae actually is pretty common in the Great Lakes. It's not necessarily harmful. It develops just like all the other stuff, and it lives in terrestrial, marine water, brackish water, or fresh water. So it's a very common bacteria. Actually, they call it cyanobacteria. And cyanobacteria can photosynthesize, and it also contains chlorophyll. So with those two together, they can also photosynthesize. So after they photosynthesize, if you ever see the sea looking a little green or something, that's why. But there are times when these blue-green algae blooms come together. Now, the blooms, they call them the harmful algae blooms. And what they are is when extensive nutrients are supplied to the lakes through rivers, river runoff, agricultural runoff. They've also suggested that severe thunderstorms have been producing the nutrients that they need. And there's multiple things that have been going into the waters that link to the harmful algae bloom. Now, the harmful algae blooms aren't always harmful. I know it's like you hear harmful algae blooms and people are like, okay, well, it's obviously harmful. It's not always harmful. It just has the potential to produce toxins. Now, the harmful blue-green algae blooms are, like I said, are produced through the proper nutrients, which is nitrogen and phosphorus. Those are the two, plus temperature and differing sunlights, that will make this algae produce rapidly. And it kind of looks like a bright green or a dark green. It looks like kind of like a soap scum on top of the waters. Now, when it does have the potential to contain the toxins, they are actually pretty dangerous. And the toxin that I decided to focus on is called Microcystis, and that's actually a hepatotoxicity. I doubt I am saying that right, but that's what it is. What it is a liver toxin, and the liver toxin actually can cause liver failure. It can cause muscular paralysis, motor weakness, all kinds of like skin problems, etc. So when these blue-green algae blooms come into contact with the waters, we generally don't want the public to be involved. So the Great Lakes have been closed off multiple times due to these harmful algae blooms, just to keep people safe. So if you're planning on going to the beach, or you're planning on going to take a swim and take your kids during these times, I do not recommend it, as even though they might not be toxic, they can still produce skin irritants, and those skin irritants might bother your children, and it could be potentially dangerous. Now, cyanobacteria, microcystis, all of these things that come together, they all have one thing in common, and it's the toxins. It's not only the hepatotoxin, there's also anatoxin and a couple of others. But I feel like hepatotoxin, or the microcystin, is actually the most dangerous. Not only does it kill off fish, it also, potentially extremely dangerous for adults and kids and humans and animals. And it's just a big health risk that nobody should be taking. Other than that, a little bit about the blue-green algae and the cyanobacteria is it's actually eukaryotic and prokaryotic. They can be single-celled organisms, they can be multicellular organisms. And they actually, like I said, are majorly not toxic. Which is funny because most of the time you have these blue algae blooms and people just take precautions and close up the beaches or the lakes. And most of the time it's okay. It's just, it's unappealing, but not really dangerous. But when it does become dangerous, that's when people start to get worried because it actually affects so many things. It affects the fish, it affects the sea, everything. So I believe hepotoxicity, microcystin, and all those other toxins that are coming from this potential blue-green algae blooms, which are the harmful blooms, are the reason that these fish are dying off. And the way that they come through is usually from septic sewage, agricultural runoff, severe thunderstorms that are flooding into the rivers, and the rivers are dumping into the lakes, providing the nitrogen and phosphorus and the lights that are needed for these blooms to grow rapidly and possibly produce dangerous toxins. Now, if you were to go, I would definitely recommend avoiding contact with the water. Listen to all the posted signs. Don't drink the water. And just be careful. Thank you.